How the heck are you, everybody? I am Fastidious. Welcome to my channel, and the warmest welcome to our most returning guest. You were Colred. We've got Bront Cat Herder back on the channel, and we are here to talk about gear, baby. How you doing, Bront?
Doing pretty good. I mean, I know we discussed renaming the channel to Fastidious and Bront and decided not to do that, but we're working on it, so we'll workshop it.
Yeah, you mentioned Fastidious Cat Herder, and I was like, I don't like cats, and then you didn't talk to me for a week, but here we are. In this video, we are talking broad strokes, the basics for your first gear cleanse. So the first time you have to cleanse your gear, your artifacts, your accessories, something like that, in my experience, the way I approach it, it's not for a while. Right? It really isn't. There's some total basics, which we'll start off with, like very quick hit, 10-second basics, but it comes down to like, sell the cursed shields from when or the curing shields from when you're farming in campaign, right? Stuff like that. If you do that enough, you're not farming dungeons enough early on that you really need to worry about a gear cleanse, but eventually you do reach that point. And Bront, I do believe I've reached that point, and I would guess many other new players have reached or are about to reach this point as well. So here I am on day 40. I've maxed out a couple dragon tournaments. I just had to do the ice golem tournament for this fusion. And kind of here we are, what is this, 1,200 out of 1,600? I think I'm ready. So yeah, just quick tips to make an easy cleanse. Obviously the deeper you get into this game, the more gear you stack up, the more variety of builds you're hunting for, and the more variety of gear you have, it only gets more nuance. But I think we're at a point where we can give people a lot of help. You can give me a lot of help without too much nuance, right?
And we can certainly stage some of the nuance as well. So it can be,
Sure.
Get some of this stuff. If that's still not enough, then we jump to the next stage and kind of go a little bit as well. So we can tier this stuff up a little bit.
All right. So I love where your head's at. How about I start with the easiest one?
Okay.
And I already touched on it. Like, go sell your frickin' shields and stuff. Whatever you've been up to with your campaign farming. It's the most mindless, simple thing you could possibly do. I got to ask you, Bront, is there a way I can do this in a mass way, or is it click, 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 click?
It's unfortunately click, 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 click at the moment. Actually, no, you can do mass that. What you can do is go to the filters.
Yes.
And then rank and rarity. And now do that. There you go.
So
That'll
common,
get most
uncommon.
of it. And then if you do the 1, 2, and 3 stars, there
That
should
should
be
probably
nothing
cover
at this
the
point in
rest.
time, 1, 2, and 3 stars that you're really keeping on this account.
Yeah, really good point. And I also want to point out, this is the other thing I was going to say on this very quick tip, is sometimes for me, I'm farming a little other random thing in campaign. So right now I do need a spirit host. Occasionally I have fodder that's at like 19 out of 20. So might as well do that run in stage 4 instead of stage 12, since I'm getting a max either way. Maybe a spirit host drops and I can get her for the Justiciar fusion. But you can see this is clearly a catch-all for all the random campaign stuff I have left. Amazing. So already a great tip that I hadn't thought of, or it would have taken me a little longer to get there. Great. Ball's in your court, man. Where are we going to now?
Let's go up to the top of the filter. We might as well do the filters while we're doing this and get the bottom row of there you go. And yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Flat stats. Flat stats are the detriment to the game. There's a couple of exceptions to that. Certainly very, very early on when you're just dealing mostly in 1, 2, and 3 star gear, something that is flat stats that is a 5 or 6 star piece will probably be better than most of the other pieces you have, especially if it's got reasonable substats, as well as some of the sets like your speed sets, for example, or possibly even some limited sets that you're going to be using for very specific purposes. But generally it's a speed stuff. If it's a speed set and it's got speed as a substat, you might keep a flat piece and roll it up and see if you can get some extra speed hits. He's got the Gorgorab one right there. That's a piece that we were talking about right there, that glove. That piece there, he rolled it up when he was very, very early in the game because he got the 6 star piece with speed on it when he didn't have 6 star gear and even 5 star gear, a lot of it. This was like the first couple of days.
This was an Alice piece. Yeah. So this is, I think, a perfect example of what you're touching on. Maybe you'll still roll some speed flats right now if you really need it. But this is something I rolled on I think day 4, and it just happened to get a triple. So it's just going to live here for a while because why not?
Speaking of speed, that's probably the next one is boots.
I wanted to point out one quick thing just because I have one other nice example. So people might have just seen while you were talking, I did save one other piece. And it's just a really specific, again, early game thing. But I had the bolster set. I got this. Yes, it's flat stat, but at least it's HP. For a faction wars champion, this will have a purpose on my account, right? Even if I just bring this to +8, it's something to throw on someone, at least for still this beginner point. But this is getting into like really specific random things. But TLDR, long story short, 99.9% of the stuff you're still going to mass sell flat stat on the bottom row at this point. And moving forward, that becomes 99.99, and then eventually it's just going to be 100%.
There's a couple of other exceptions too. That's a good example of that. Is a 6-star mythical piece in a set that you have to purchase. So some people might keep that because if you go to the upgrade, you can Chaos Ore it. So if you look under rework, you have Chaos Ore. Now he doesn't have any 6-star mythical Chaos Ore because that's actually pretty hard to get. But if this was a legendary piece, I could see maybe keeping this because bolster set's really good and you have to buy it. Maybe keeping it and trying to Chaos Ore it into a good main stat as well.
That's
I'm
a really
not a huge fan of doing Chaos Ore for some of this stuff, but it's something that you can do depending on what level of spending you're going to be engaged in as well.
Yeah, that's a really good thing to keep in mind. I hadn't even thought of that because I don't have any mythical Chaos Ore yet, but clearly they do pop up once in a while in the events and the tournaments. So I really like that tip. All right, you said speaking of speed, let's speak about it.
Yep. Generally, especially early on, you want speed boots. Period. You want not speed boots the set, but speed boots the main stat. Exactly. And this is one of the few cases where as you're moving up in the game, you want to get to where you're using 5 and 6-star pieces pretty much exclusively, but occasionally 4-star speed boots. If you're having trouble finding speed boots, a couple of 4-star speed boots aren't going to kill you early on, especially because they're cheap to max out for a faction war champion. So getting a 4-star speed boot to plus 16 for a champion is significantly cheaper. You've got a 4-star sped in speed, that's even more valuable. If you're not going for speed, and we've already talked about flat stats are absolutely trash, particularly on boots. If it doesn't have speed, it's probably still trash. So if you're going to get an attack percentage set of boots, you're going to want speed on it as a substat, just because you're already giving up a ton of speed. And honestly, in the way the meta has changed, even the endgame players now are not using non-speed boots in any situation anymore because the speeds are so ridiculous at the high end.
Really, even in PvE?
Yeah, because you got people that are going oftentimes 350, 400 speed in PvE for some of the endgame content. Now we're talking to people that are doing like billions of damage on Chimera, for example. So we're certainly at the end extreme game there.
The one shout, maybe for like a campaign farmer, for like a Fellhound, if you've got a defense or attack bonus pair, or maybe whomever you're using. But yeah, I think that's a great tip. Nice and simple. So something you could basically do, is go buy your boots and then select every other main stat and feel fairly confident selling that unless it's like a great set or a great possible thing and, you catch a nice speed substat, something like that, right?
Yeah, and at the very least, maybe you get kind of picky early on and say, I'm not keeping anything that doesn't at least have a good substat or 6 stars. Because that way, if I'm giving up speed on the boots, I'm getting a lot of something really great in return out of it.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, maybe you set a little qualification like that. Certainly, you're not keeping 4-star, and depending on the account, maybe even 5-star is not even going to be worth it without that speed main stat on the boots. I like that a lot. What else you got for us?
As far as things that are generally fairly useless, attack percent gloves. There's a very, very niche set of champions where attack percent gloves are the choice, and that's bomb champions. And that's because bomb champions need to deal with their attack, and those you then are going to want speed and accuracy because those are the other two things, because you need accuracy to land the bombs and speed because you certainly would like to go first or fast enough to land the bombs in the first place. Speed is a reoccurring theme here. Basically, if a item has speed on it as a substat, it's not probably worth maybe holding on to until you get to a point where you can start being picky about sets, just because speed is so hard to get early on in the game, and it's just such a powerful stat.
This might be the kind of piece, no speed, but maybe this is acceptable for a bomb champion, at least early on, or do you think no?
Well, it's got a set going for it in addition to at least one of the stats you're looking for, so yeah, that would not be too bad. Whereas that lifesteal attack one below that, I'm guessing that's probably...
Yeah, we can sell that for sure. Sell. So you're at the point here where you're probably not going to mass select, but it can be this quick, right? It's like, I'm not keeping that. These speed stuff, if that's speed, I'll keep it. Nope. What are we looking at here? Maybe we could get that going. That's a hard no, and you can just go real quick with it,
Yeah,
make a little
exactly.
progress.
And there's honestly so few bomb champions, you're not going to do a lot with them. The
Yes.
only other thing that attack gloves can sometimes be okay for is sometimes for faction wars damage dealers, but even then, you'd much rather throw crit rate gloves on them because
Yeah.
crit rate adds so much extra damage over attack. And it's more universal because not every champion that you're going to just build for damage is going to be an attack-based champion.
Yeah, I think another good point there is, especially early on when you still have to do these beginner things, you probably can't pick up the crit rate and the substats elsewhere, especially on a non-priority champion like a random faction crypts champion, right? So definitely a lot more value there. Definitely like that tip. Eventually, of course, you're going to have good enough gear that you can be like, I really just want crit damage gloves for everything, and I'm going to have perfect substats everywhere else. That takes a lot longer than we'd like.
Another good one early on for the not quite mass select, but resistance chests. Resistance is a stat that when you need resistance, you probably need all the resistance because resistance is very hard to build. For those that are not familiar, basically you need to have about 100 points more resistance than your enemy's accuracy to have the 97% chance to resist anything. There's always a 3% chance of something getting resisted or a 3% chance of something succeeding. You want to get close to that 97%, and that's around 100 points above the other person's accuracy. So that means anything below at least a 5-star resistance is probably trash. And even a
Gotcha.
5-star resistance piece is most likely going to be trash for you in most cases, unless it's got some amazing other substats for you. And since you're not going to be building a lot of champions in resistance, you can probably just, yeah, exactly. That's, got rid of the 4-stars there right now. The 5-stars you may want to filter through a little bit, but for the most part, they're
I got a
probably not
question
gonna
for
be
you.
exciting.
So in other games, a lot of times you can sort by a stat, right? A substat, for example. So let's say we want a resistance main stat with a speed substat, and then it would be able to show you everything that has obviously main stat, resistance, substat, speed, but then it would be it could also have an option to show you everything without it. Is there a way to do this to see all your resistance chests that
Not
don't have
directly,
speed?
but this is the great trick for that too. Scroll down to the bottom, and there is a remove hide set filters.
Hide set filters, okay. And you do
now
priority.
go back up to priority stats, and now sort
it.
by speed.
So
and
the
then
ones
go
at the
for
bottom got nice. Okay, so see, these are the nuggets I knew you'd be bringing, right? And now we can know. So now I'm on my 5-stars, not my 6-stars. I'm not going to touch my 6-stars, but I'm just going to click till I see speed. If it doesn't have speed, I'm not interested. I guess we'll keep this chest because it's speed. But yeah, until wow, this is depressing. I'll keep that. Now we're on to 6-star. This one too. Wow, that's rough. That's rough. But that's the life.
I mean, to be fair, I think on my endgame account, I have a total of like 4 champions that are built for high resistance. The resistance is not a big thing in the game under most circumstances. A few cases where you want to. I mean, it's actually more than that because some solo champions you sometimes want to. But often with the solo champions, you still want to try to build these endgame builds with an HP or a defense chest because you want them to survive the hits in addition to having the resistance as well. So very
good
specialized gears.
Just while we're on the topic, we're already getting toward the end here, guys. Don't worry. But just quickly while we're on the topic of the priority, because one way I've enjoyed using it is like you have these moments where you're just, especially early on, where you're like, I just want the piece, like set doesn't matter. So I think a good example here, again, is my Gorgrab. I didn't have good enough gloves or chest to get him fast and a speed set. So I knew I was running this as my broken set because 22 speed. But like, let's say, and who knows, maybe I've got a better piece now. I want to know just what's my best chest. You can find a really cool thing by combining 2 things we just talked about. So hide the set filters. These are every chest unequipped on my account right now. We could even show equipped. And then set that priority for speed. So this isn't for selling, but just very quick tip. But we'll just see what's my speediest chest on the whole frickin' account, right? So you can go over here and actually look at that. My Gorgrab's going to get at least another 3 speed. We can go over here, drop a cheeky one of these, make it 4, right? It's something. All right. Any final tips for us here, Bront? I think we got a lot of nice little nuggets.
What I generally find, at least early on, speed is hard to come by, crit rate's hard to come by, accuracy a little less hard nowadays, but it's still kind of hard to come by.
As a returning player, where accuracy was like my whole life on my old free-to-play account, and now being here now, accuracy is so easy to come by. It's blowing my mind. The amount of new sets, the one-piece sets that give it. I just want to show off this banner I got from Alice. This dropped, I believe, from Siege. So it's
Oh,
a
that's a
one
great banner.
piece. That's 40 accuracy. It also rolled amazing, and it enchanted or ascended amazing. So but I mean, think about what this is giving me. That literally didn't exist when I played the game. So plus 40, 136. 155 accuracy from a piece that didn't exist when I played. Obviously, it's a good piece, but I think that's a good summation of. I'm shocked that like you can get builds. Also, when I played, you didn't get guaranteed stats from these blessings. So there's another 75 on my Alice. So accuracy has not been a priority. I need to rebuild my Alice. She's at 384 speed. This is complete and utter overkill. I just want to say, having taken a couple years away, it's shocking how much easier accuracy has become.
Yeah, but to that point, you still have so many champions that need accuracy to do
For sure,
something
for
as
sure.
well. So it's not like you want to downplay it too much either. So your speed, your crit rate is super helpful. Accuracy is very helpful. So pieces that have that are pieces you might want to hold on to over other pieces. And then finally, look at what the set is. This is certainly when you start to focus on stats over sets just a little bit more, then you start to break down the substats on them a little bit more. But it certainly doesn't hurt to look at a little bit. If you're on the edge, take a look at it. So say you've got a piece that's got accuracy and resistance and HP, but it's an offense piece. Well, that's not as exciting as if it would be on a life set or an
bolster.
accuracy set, bolster, you know. So maybe if it's I don't need that on that life set because it's just not great, then maybe I don't, or maybe it rolls bad. And that's another thing too. There's nothing wrong with rolling something to +8 and then saying, okay, this is crap because it didn't roll into what I wanted to. So like you have a piece that's got a flat speed and flat HP, for an example, is actually a good example for that. So you find one that's got speed and flat HP, you roll it, you hit flat HP twice on the subs. Maybe you say, okay, this piece is now no longer worth it for me. That's obviously more for the top pieces than the bottom pieces, because the bottom pieces are also subject to what kind of thing. There's that actually that speed and resistance one's not a bad option. It's in speed set, so it's probably not the great option, but you roll that to +8.
Also kind of a low initial roll, but
Yeah. Okay. So it's a low initial roll, roll a second roll, but to be fair, on this account, that's still 8 speed on speed set. That's going to be useful on somebody somewhere.
it's got
If
a
this
place.
was, however, if this was an accuracy, for example, if this was an offense, that piece maybe not quite as good. So you start to keep the sets in mind a little bit for what you're looking for. Obviously, crit rate is an offensive set, so you're looking for crit rate. You're looking for maybe crit damage, that sort of stuff too. Crit rate is so important early on, though, because it's so hard to get to that 100% crit rate. Once you can get to that 100% crit rate a little bit more, pieces that have crit damage and not crit rate are a little easier to keep. But early on, crit damage is kind of hard to deal with.
Well said. I think the last point we can make is you're going to reach a point certainly by like day 40 if you've been playing a lot, right? Like please make sure there's just no 1, 2, and 3-star gear. You've completely graduated. 4-star gear, I do believe serves a purpose, especially as you said at the beginning of this video. If it's already rolled, it costs only 20,000 silver to take it off. So if you can get a couple good 4-star pieces, maybe a couple good 4-star sets, and those can be like muled around for your faction wars champions. It's a little different nowadays because you get those free removal days. That was always my strategy. Have a couple sets that, one good speed set where both pieces are 4-star and you can just move that around every day. But basically everything else can be a sell, especially if it's not rolled. So what I would suggest doing is you don't have to do a mass sell, but click through it and it's like, this isn't bad, but this isn't good. It has no place on my account. Yeah. Just continue along. This is kind of cool as a speed subset, but on a 4-star, I couldn't care less. This, okay, maybe I'll roll that to +8. If we get a double speed roll, double accuracy, it's got its one use one way or another. That maybe you keep, but you can just work your way through it. Like this will not live on my account. This, that, and the other. Relentless, maybe I'll keep those 2 pieces. Who knows if I need to fill it out on some random champion set. But stuff like this, if it's rare, you can really quickly, I'm not going to do it all right now, but it won't take you more than 2 or 3 minutes. You can get through all of this. Before you know it, you've got a lot of space. I mean, we've been doing this kind of mindlessly. We already made 200 spots. With any form of intention that we would have made 400 or 500 spots. You can watch your silver go up a little bit. I got to say, Braun, it blew my mind how much silver it took me to max out that last, not even max out, just get the rare character from that last gear enhancement event. It took me like 13.5 million silver.
Lucky then. It's usually about 15 to 20 is about what you kind of expect for those. At least that's what I recommend people budget for it. The general tricks for that, and that's, you can certainly roll that in quickly too, because that's obviously an early game concern. For getting the most points out of those, one of the big tricks I find is don't roll anything to +16 outside of one of those events. because getting those to plus 16 is really the biggest point of that. But what I will often do is I'll take pieces that, like, for example, that Alice helmet you've got on there right now. Maybe you'll
Well, actually, I've got a great example. So before the event, I think I know what you're going to say. I just had this living at plus 15 for like a week waiting for the event. Yeah, I think it's a great tip. I don't know if I like this helmet enough because it's broken set. That's why I've left it here.
Well, not on her, but I'm sure there's going to be somebody that's going to be a possible damage dealer or just needs speed. That's a good helmet on somebody for quite a while.
Yeah, it's got the little regen effect as well. Man, I think there were a lot of good tips in here. Guys, let us know if you have any tips of your own, really geared towards beginners. You can put those in the comments. And absolutely check out Bront. You got a lot of really good content on this stuff that I'm going to make my way through. You can go to Bront Cat Herder Gaming, and you'll see we got this Keep or Sell series. There's an artifact version and an accessory version. Whole little playlist here as well. And we got to mention it. I mean, you're still very dominant in this free-to-play challenge. Clearly, you're a guy that's not just entertaining, but knows his stuff. So everyone check out Bront's channel. Any final words, sir?
No, you've got, we've covered a lot of stuff here. And honestly, this is simple gear cleanse. You'll see it will get more complicated because it just does. But honestly, the only time you really need to cleanse your gear is if you're approaching getting full or you need silver to do something. And so you don't have to be on it daily and maybe not even weekly, but it's certainly nice to go through maybe once every few weeks, or maybe even you do a bunch of farming, you run an event. So over the course of a day, you get through your Fire Night event. And then you just go in and I don't know if you've got anything left because you got rid of all the red dots before we started this stuff, but you can go in and check your new stuff. And that's one of the easier ways to actually keep on top of it too, is just hit the just new. You can just sort through what's new, and it's a lot easier and a lot more limited to look through what you've got to get rid of the very, very easy stuff, at least to kind of keep yourself on top of it.
Thank you, Bront Cat Herder. Everybody go check him out. Link in the description, the top pick comment. By the way, if you want to start Raid Shadow Legends, I've got my download link there, best download link in the game, and in the top pick comment as well. Thank you for watching us. Share with your mother, and we'll see you real soon. Bye.
Bye.
Fastidious.